Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Monica, and in this video, I wanted to share with you a little bit about my path to retirement and kind of my experience thus far. As of the taping of this video, it is December 22nd, 2025, and I retired August 1st of this year. And I'm 60 years old, so I did retire a bit earlier than I had originally planned, fully by my choice. It wasn't due to a layoff or anything like that. I had just gotten to a place where I really was just longing for the freedom to, have my time be my own and be able to do what I wanted to do when I was ready to do it and not really be on someone else's schedule. I enjoyed the work that I was doing and everything. Things had gotten pretty hectic at work. And so that was kind of, also pushing me to say, okay, is there a way some other way I'd rather spend my time. So I did decide to go ahead and retire at 60. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about my how I prepared for that. And if you're thinking about retirement or maybe recently retired, these may be some things that you want to take into consideration as you move toward retirement or move forward in your retirement. Um, but I initially started kind of thinking about retiring back in January of this year, and then really got serious about thinking about it in March. Of course, I spoke with my financial advisor, everything to make sure that he agreed that I could make it work from a financial perspective, and we talked about how much I could reasonably pull from my retirement accounts and so forth, because obviously I don't qualify for Social Security yet. And so, with that number in mind, I kind of created a budget for myself, taking out, being that the money I would be pulling out of those accounts would be pulled out in a gross amount. So I would need to account for, setting aside enough for federal and state taxes and homeowners insurance, car insurance, all of those things that you have to kind of plan for. What I did is I started in March of this year tracking my spending. So, because really one of the things that I realized is even though I've already, always been or tried to be conscious of what I was spending, I realized that, you know, we usually have a ballpark idea of how much we spend every month, but how accurate am I? And what I found is, like most of us, we probably spend a bit more than we realize. And that was true for me. I kind of had a number in mind of about how much I thought I normally spent every month, but it turned out I was spending $500 to $600 more per month, and not on necessary items. Because obviously I knew how much my mortgage was. I knew how much, my electricity and water and all utilities, all those things kind of usually run. But it was those miscellaneous things that add up, the eating out, the, just, being out shopping and picking up, this and that and the other, the things that, kind of catch your eye or whatever, but you don't necessarily need, or, shopping on Amazon, all of those things, things quickly add up, and they add up faster than you realize. So I really wanted to, put some thought into that. So what I started doing in March was I started tracking every penny I spent. And when I say every penny, I mean every penny. If I stopped at a convenience store and bought a candy bar, that went into my spending tracker. I mean, I tracked everything so I could absolutely feel confident going into retirement that I could enjoy my retirement. I don't have a huge retirement budget. I'm not going to be sharing my actual finances on this channel, or, talking about how much you need to retire with it, because everyone's situation is different. But for me, I have a comfortable but modest retirement, is how I would describe it. And the reason I started tracking my spending before I actually retired was to ensure that going into it, I felt confident that, hey, my bills are going to be paid. I'm going to have like a little extra set aside in savings so that, for what I call a rainy day, when those unexpected things happen, like, the hot water heater goes out, or the washing machine breaks down, or there's a plumbing issue, or, there's always stuff, that comes up. So I wanted to be able, to make sure that I could, cover those kinds of things, but then also still have some fun. I don't lead an elaborate life, but I wanted to make sure that I was still able to go out to eat and go do stuff with my friends and things like that. So again, I tracked everything I spent up until I retired. And actually, I've continued to do that since retiring because I don't want to fall into, a pit of, finding out by accident that I'm spending more than I realized I was spending. I want to make sure that I'm staying on track and tracking my spending every month and tracking again everything I spend helps me do that, and it helps me to sleep at night. It helps me to know that I'm staying on track. And also, if there's one month that I spend a bit more than I did, say there's something special happening that I spent a little bit more than, I would normally intend, then, I can be aware of that. So I can maybe be a little more conservative the following month or something, but I can adjust accordingly, as things come up. So highly recommend doing that, tracking that spending, just so you have that feeling of peace and confidence going into your retirement, that you know exactly where your money's going. And there may be things that you want or need to cut out in order to be able to retire. And then you'll have to think about, okay, am I still going to enjoy my retirement if I have to cut some things out, or or make some changes there. One thing that I've discovered in tracking my spending is that I am way more thoughtful about how I spend. I will put something in my Amazon cart, but instead of buying it right away, I think on it for a few days, and it kind of comes back, okay, is this something I really need? And sometimes the answer is no. Often the answer is no. But is it something I want and I know I'll get a lot of enjoyment out of? If so, I go ahead, a few days later, I go ahead and, complete the purchase. But then sometimes I think about it, like, yeah, that would be kind of cool to have or something. But to be honest, it's, not something I'll get a ton of use out of. And I've got an alternative that works just as well or something like that. And then, I'll delete it from my cart or whatever. So it's just, pardon me, caused me to be, a lot more thoughtful about my spending and everything. And again, just to make sure that I am staying within that budget that I've set for myself. Okay. Now, with regard to other things that I really spent time thinking about leading up to retirement, was that, kind of the who and the what. What am I going to be doing during my retirement? And who am I going to be spending my time with? Okay, so let's start with the who. And excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of water because I feel myself wanting to start to cough a little bit. So excuse me just a second. Okay, so with regard to the who, am I going to spend my retirement with? Now, I am very much an introvert, so I don't need a huge social network. I do not have any immediate family here in the area where I live. The family that I do have are a few states away, so I do get to see them a few times a year. I travel to see them. But in general, I have a small, close group of friends here in the area where I live. And, and that's fine. They're wonderful people, love spending time with them and everything. However, only one of those friends is also retired. So the others, they're still working and not available to do things during the week. So, I had to kind of think about that. And, so for me, being an introvert, sometimes for me, having like social interaction doesn't always mean doing something with someone else. Sometimes it's just getting out. So I'm among other people. And that might be, taking a book or my laptop or something to a coffee shop and just kind of people watching and listening. And sometimes you strike up a conversation with someone, or, the thing is, I don't mind going out to eat by myself, so again, you're kind of among other people. And, in addition, I also, recently found out about a senior center that's near me that after the new year, I'm going to look into possibly joining that, because that's obviously another way that you can meet some new people and join in activities with others. And then, of course, there's meetup groups for you, those of you that might be interested in joining some additional groups and everything to expand your social circle. I may do that as well. I don't have any immediate needs or thoughts of doing that, but I may over time join some new meetup groups. I've done that in the past and really enjoyed it. In fact, a couple of the friends that I consider very close friends now here, I actually met through meetup groups and everything. So highly recommend that and everything. But there's different options, and everyone has different needs. Some of you may have children and grandchildren, and so you already know that your social circle is going to be full with those family members and everything. So I don't have children or grandchildren, so I do kind of look for more of a building a social network through friends and everything and activities. So just some thoughts, but I did spend quite a bit of time thinking about that too. Am I going to be bored or lonely? The thing, and I haven't been at all, thank goodness, and I don't envision that being an issue for me, because like I said, I'm an introvert, so I'm okay spending quite a bit of time by myself. But I do have already that core network of friends that I spend some time with, and I am looking to expand that group a little bit in various ways. So excited about that as well. And then the other aspect of that is, what will I spend my time doing? And now for me, I do want to do some traveling. I actually am planning a cross country road trip for fall of 2026. I'm going to be hopefully doing some shorter, weekend or week long trips between now and then as well. But in addition, I was looking, okay, when I'm home, how am I going to spend my time? For me, I enjoy doing things like jigsaw puzzles, and I've got like one of those adult coloring books. I enjoy spending time working on that. And also, one of the things on my bucket list as such is writing a book. So I'm starting to work on that. I already have my concept in mind, and it's going to be like a cozy mystery thriller sort of thing. So really getting excited about that. It long way off. It's going to take me quite a long time to do that, but I'm very excited about getting started on that. And so I would encourage you to really think about how you're going to spend your time. Again, for those of you with children and grandchildren, you all may already know that, oh, that's going to fill up my time as, hanging out with family and everything. But, think about that is, what's going to keep me engaged and challenged and, keep my mind active and all of those things. Of course, I love watching YouTube videos and, other TV shows as well. But, I would definitely don't want to become a couch potato in my retirement. So I wanted to make sure that, I had plenty to do outside of television or YouTube or whatever to do. In addition, another for me is I want to improve my health. And so, I've kind of started an exercise routine, everything. So hoping to continue that and continue to improve my health, everything. But again, just spend time thinking about how you will spend your time, everything. So, now, one of the other things that I did that's actually been a surprise to me since I retired, and like I said, I've only been retired for 5 months or so now, because I just retired August 1st. But I thought what I envisioned was that, oh gosh, I'm going to have the days are going to feel so long, and I'm going to feel like I have all of this free time, and which I do. But the days do not go slow at all. They fly by. I have been shocked at how fast my days go by. They go by almost as fast, if not as fast or faster than they did when I was working. It's crazy. You would think that, I mean, I get up in the morning, I don't have to set an alarm or anything. I get up whenever I want. Of course, I have a little morning routine. I do those things. Of course, sometimes there's chores to do around the house or things, but otherwise, I don't have my days booked up as such when I'm at home. And so you would think, again, the time would just, kind of drag and your day would feel really long. Not at all. Not in my experience, anyway. I have been shocked from the very beginning. It feels like time time has just flown, and maybe that's just part of getting older. But I really did think that not working, that I would have the feeling of time slowing down a bit, but that has not been the case. At all. I have truly been shocked at how fast time is flying in my retirement. So, just something to be aware of there. But I am absolutely loving it. I'm loving the freedom of, just being able to spend my time, again, on my schedule, doing things at my pace and kind of on my timeline, as opposed to being on someone else's timeline. And so, if you can work it out and you're ready to retire, highly recommend it for sure. And, this channel is going to be all about, um, just sharing not only this my kind of path to retirement, but also, my life and adventures as I continue in my retirement. In addition, I may post a few videos about kind of the job search process. My former career was in human resources and recruiting. I actually spent over 25 years. In that field. And so I thought about that, today the job market is pretty tough right now. And, if you listen to some reports, it's anticipated that it may get even tougher. There's been quite a few layoffs and things like that. And, of course, individuals coming out of college, trying to find jobs and such. So, like I said, it's kind of tough all around right now. So I thought about maybe doing a few videos about the job search process and kind of basic things about setting yourself up for success in that area too. So if you can continue to watch my channel, be aware you may see some videos pop up with regard to that as well. But the main aspects of this channel is all about retirement and my retired life, things that I'm learning and doing as part of my retirement. And just kind of want to take you along for the ride. I'm really excited about some of the adventures I have in mind, and I hope you'll join me. If you liked this video, I hope you'll hit that thumbs up button, and I also invite you to subscribe. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. And just wish you all a blessed holiday season. So look forward to seeing you again. Bye.